Lowdown Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is a really dynamic originator up in Massachusetts. She has been named a Scotsman Guide Top 1% Women's Originator, featured as one of Mortgage Banking Magazine's Powerful Women in Mortgage. She's a podcast host herself, and you can check that out on Real People Real Estate, and a huge champion for her community with tons of great involvement and promotion of the local area that she likes to share on her own social platform. Today, I'm just thrilled to introduce Lindsay LaBonte to the Lowdown. Lindsay, welcome. I appreciate you joining today.
Hey, Connor. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Lindsay, I'm very excited to have you join and to get your story out there. When I look for guests, I look for three things. Do they clearly love what they do? Are they getting rave reviews from their clients? And are they showing real signs of growth? And you check all three boxes. And so I'm just curious to get the ball rolling here as we start our conversation. When did you know that mortgage was going to be more than just a job for you and that this was something you wanted to pursue as a career?
I love that question. It's kind of unique for me because I grew up in the business. My dad owned a mortgage company originally. So when I try to think of when I actually thought it was going to be my career, I mean, there are different milestones. In fourth grade, right, I had to say who my hero was, and I said my dad. So I've always been following him around, right? That's from one side of it. In high school, I made a internship. I had a study period. I could make an internship, and I worked. That's when I started working in the mortgage company. And I guess when I officially really made the decision would have been in college. I kept working full time through college and decided to get my loan officer license when we all had to be licensed in whenever I think I got it around 2010. You know, I was 20 years old. I was in the middle of my undergrad studies and trying to figure out what I was going to do. I think we're all still trying to figure out what we're going to do in life. But I was really passionate about the business right from the start, from before I could even walk.
So you're one of the few, if maybe the only person who grew up wanting to be a loan officer, right? Like you knew that from the beginning. You had been around it. And I think that's great. Just the growing up in the business really, I'm sure, gave you a different perspective than most coming into it.
Yeah. I think the coolest thing was that my dad, when I really truly expressed that interest, he started really saying, you work with me, not for me. And I got a seat at the table. So totally understand, that's a privilege that a lot of people don't have from such a young age, is really getting to not just learn the business, but learn it from the ground up and the inside out, and see the books and see the decision making. I always knew I wanted to work, and I saw my dad come home so most of the time so satisfied from the work he was doing, really feeling that impact of making a difference in people's lives and getting them into the American dream.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's awesome that you were able to see that, have a front row seat to it. But for you personally, like after you got started and started really getting into the business, was there a turning point where you really knew, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and this is something I'm gonna, expand on and get better at as I go? What was that turning point like for you?
So I always wanted to set myself apart, and I never wanted that feeling of riding my dad's coattails, right? That's like the worst thing about being in a family business, is just that monkey on your shoulder from thinking people are like, do you even deserve it? You're handed everything. So I used that as motivation to basically stand out and kind of differentiate myself. And yes, certainly the relationships were there, but I also established my own relationships. And I think when I really dove into it and started getting really involved as a young professional in the community and getting up to where I was doing 100 units a year, that was a big milestone for me. Probably around, 2014, maybe 2015, I started hitting that 100 units goal right alongside my dad, who was doing it. So we were growing together. And I joined a coaching program in 2017, Scott Grove's Consolidated Coaching. Big shout out to him. I didn't have a perspective on the greater industry, right? Because I'm here in Western Mass. I worked for my dad. I kind of just had his old school belly to belly mentality, which you absolutely need in this business. And then I got connected into, more of this national coaching network where I learned things like using LOAs or loan partners. I didn't even know people did that. I was just like hustling through 100 units a year by myself. So when I brought in that team, that really, I think, was the turning point. So probably like 2017, 2018, and then 2019 was a really banner year. Other than the pandemic, I don't count the pandemic because those are like icing on the cake years.
Anomalies, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's well, that's amazing to hear. I mean, I've talked with several originators like yourself, and that moment of hiring a team, that first hire, it's always so difficult, but also, when you get it right, because not everybody gets it right the first time, but when you get it right and get the right person on your team, just the relief that it brings. I mean, you
totally.
spend so much time in the beginning building it all by yourself, and it's so hard to let go of the things that you do great, right? And you're like, could somebody do it as well as me? And so I know a lot of people struggle with that. Was that something that was difficult for you, or what was that decision like?
Yeah, I think do delegate delete, right? Is what I'm always telling myself pretty much every day when something comes across my desk. I'm like, is this really something that I need to do, or can I delegate it, or do I just get rid of it, right? Is it just taking up space for no reason? And I think that becomes a little bit addictive once you start doing it. And all of a sudden, I'm anytime something comes into my periphery, I'm like, is this really the best use of my time? Sometimes it's frustratingly so, right? Because I'm so trying to make the best use of my time, but I don't know that it was really that difficult once I realized that I could reset my ego, and instead of just saying, "Can I hustle harder?" because I couldn't, right? Like I had
Right.
gotten to a point where
You're up against the
that was,
wall. You're on red. Yeah.
yeah, too many hours of the day. And plus, I had at that point an amazing teammate and who's still with me, and the rest of my team has grown. I mean, we've been together now basically for a whole decade since that turning point. And so I think I also am just so lucky that I had the right support people around me. And whatever it is, when we sit down as a team and we're like, all right, we got to shift because we know in this market or in this industry we're always shifting. They're game to do it too. So yeah, it's realizing that you can delegate, just doing it, and then making sure you've got the right team to catch whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. So to transition a little bit, and before we started talking, I went to your Facebook page. I was just doing a little research, and I really appreciate how much you support small business in your community and the way that you really want to highlight them. Why is that important to you? Is it because your dad started this business, or what? Like, why does that resonate with you so much?
I think we have a really special community in our area. I'm in Western Massachusetts. We're about 45 minutes north of Hartford, about 2 hours west of Boston, right? We're pretty close to Burlington and Vermont, too. So we've got this kind of really cool, only a few hours away from New York City. We've got this really cool area that's like the perfect melting pot. And it's so hyper focused on local. So local businesses, small businesses, nonprofits. I mean, this is a community who's truly rolls up their sleeves and supports each other. And yes, I think my dad was a little bit ahead of his time, especially as a mortgage broker, right? Big bad mortgage broker. He had ingrained in the way that he did his business extreme corporate social responsibility, giving back to the community. And that was just the path that myself, and I have a brother too, our family was raised to help each other, help our neighbors, help our community. And so I've kept that going. And I think that also in the area that we're in, it's not like we have hundreds of thousands of transactions and real estate agents and professionals, right? There's a finite amount of business here. And so it's also a different way that I've diversified my referral base, is that a big portion of my referral base, it's not just the traditional real estate agents that most loan officers focus on. At least over half of it is also just community driven. And that comes from a lot of the support we do. So it's philanthropic, it's given back to the community, it's what we want to do. And also, we're supporting the people who are supporting us in
Right.
business. So it's a full
Yeah,
circle.
that's great. Well, and with that kind of involvement and that smaller sort of community feel, I imagine that along the way, there have been some loan stories that have really just resonated with you. Is there one in particular that really just stood out as where you helped somebody and it just hit you in all the right places?
I think what it is now is it's those repeat stories, those repeat buyers that come back time and time again. And, just earlier this week, I had someone who called in and I think she said, grandfather worked with my dad. Her mom worked with me. I worked with her. She's like, I'm going to send my kids to you someday. And that's really what it's all about. And I think it's the level of trust and loyalty. It's unbeatable when I have that kind of conversation, really through and through.
That's amazing. Well, is there a situation out there that you can point to where you really went above and beyond for someone, or did something that was just out of the ordinary that most loan officers maybe would overlook or not do?
Yeah, I think that well, to be frank with you, I think the bar is set really low in this industry, honestly. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people, a lot of loan officers out there, sorry, I'm calling you out, who really
Do
do
it.
a bad job at customer service. I'm a raw team player, but sometimes I get these calls like I had just got off a call this morning, maybe that's why I'm a little bit sour. And this person said that they'd applied elsewhere and they're trying to do a divorce buyout refinance situation, and they had applied back in May, and they're still being just dragged out. And she's like, is this normal? I don't know why. I don't even have an underwriting decision. I'm like, okay, we're talking what, 4 or 5 months later, that first of all, there's probably so many different compliance situations that are out of compliance if she really doesn't have any decision. But just to drag somebody through the mud like that, who's already going through a tricky part of life, getting separated and trying to figure out the finances. So, hopefully that'll be a story of going above and beyond to get that person the right information. And even if we can't help, point them in the right direction down the next path. And I think it's just day in and day out that that's what we strive to do is people deserve transparency, they deserve education, they deserve answers. And again, I think, it's not always the norm, and people kind of have these lower expectations of the lending industry. And I think all of us can kind of step it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think if we don't, then we become a commodity and
Exactly.
people start to expect a transactional experience versus one that's relational and can be, I know a lot of loan officers focus a lot on the whole financial picture, and they do go above and beyond and deliver this great experience. But if the majority of people only experience something transactional, then
Hmm.
the industry starts to be commoditized, and which is great news for you because you'll stand out a lot, right? but
Right. That's what
but
I'm
it
hoping
makes it
for.
really difficult for anyone else who's just focused on the transaction and not the relationship and the person there in front of them. And just, I guess, kind of on that note, just speaking of the other people that you deal with in this job, like your referral partners are important. And how are you, like, what's your value proposition to the agents that you work with? I don't know if you work with financial planners or any other kind of partnerships, but how are you standing out service wise from your competition?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is, of course, the classic, we communicate, we close on time, we have a variety of different programs, right? That's kind of the stuff that's always
Okay, the
done.
stakes.
I think the bigger value add is actually what we were really just discussing, which is kind of the future, or the modern, I guess I should say, because it's now the modern loan originator. We're really working in partnership. So we are helping to drive additional referrals by making sure that homeowner has the best possible transaction that they can have. And I shouldn't use that word transaction, but experience that they can have, so that they're singing everybody's praises to their friends and family. And of course, there are a lot of different avenues that we can utilize to hype up the other people that are involved, right? Co-branding efforts, webinars, seminars, newsletters. There's all this different technology, social media posts, right? We have all of these resources now. So I think the value add is just that cumulative extra touches, personalization, and really being that mortgage expert and more of that financial expert to transcend the transaction. So it's not just about that one deal. It's about the whole life cycle.
Right. Are you working with your agents at all to coach them in any way? Do you do any like education, or how are you helping your referral partners get better at what they do?
Yeah, so we try to always be up to date on any industry changes, anything that's happening, best practices, technology. We host monthly webinars. We do actually for first time home buyers, refinance buyers, and industry partners. So the industry partners kind of rotate through whatever topic might be of need. And then we're doing an in person event in October. So we do a few in person as well, and trying always to stay up to date on whatever people need in the industry.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a lost right now. I mean, the one to many platform, the ability to get, I mean, I'm sure when you do these monthly webinars, you may have some months where maybe only two people show up, and maybe some months it's a lot more, but the consistency
Totally.
is really important, and delivering on that. Is there anything unique that you do to execute that strategy? I mean, is this something that you're just keeping up with through your database, and you've got an automated send out that goes out to that, or how are you kind of, I guess, how are you working that?
Yeah. So I guess having started a little bit on the younger side, right? I was licensed when I was 20. So I started out more understanding social media and digital media marketing and even just newsletter marketing. That's all a comfortable zone for me.
Mhm.
So I think one thing that I had an advantage on that I didn't even realize at the time was just, being comfortable using those types of platforms. And so with the webinars, especially, they're free, right? It's free to me, it's easy. So basically we're just setting up that Zoom webinar. We're putting it in our newsletters. We have our database is segmented to, the right target audience that we want. We're promoting it on social media and doing lots of videos and posts. And then, of course, the bigger opportunity is that I have a team of loan officers too. And there's 3 other loan officers I manage. So I'm setting these events up so that they have reasons to be calling, right? So then they can pick up the phone and they can say to their agents, hey, this is what we're doing this month to, help you out. Can you attend? What are other ideas you might want to learn about? Same thing. We just ran a series of in-person, we called them our local love days. And basically we partnered with different brick and mortar retailer restaurant businesses, invited our entire database. Didn't matter who you were. Didn't even really matter if you'd worked with us or not. Just show up, have a drink on us, or the next one coming up next weekend is going to be a yoga class complimentary. So again, the event itself is cool, right? It provides reasons to post and have marketing around, but it's also the fortunes in the follow up. And I think that's the piece of it that sometimes gets missed, is actually making the phone calls and thanking people for going or inviting them to the next one. And sometimes it's just having that tangible thing out
Mhm.
there to be able to talk about.
Well, I think it's super smart. Like, you're manufacturing an opportunity out of thin air to just say, all right, let's get
Exactly.
people together. That will give me an opportunity to follow up with them later. And, to your point, if the fortune is in the follow up, you need a reason to follow up. And
Yeah.
just calling to check in is not a reason to follow up.
Right. And if one or two people show up, it's like, it's okay because, we did it. We're generating buzz around it in other ways. And especially like with our local love days, I mean, we're still spending money at that business and bringing somebody else into that business. So yeah, it's full circle. But yeah, all the technology, CRM, to answer your original question, CRM, social media, Facebook, Instagram, that all helps with marketing those.
Yeah. So I know as you grow, things get hard. What keeps you going when the business gets tough?
It's been a tough few years, right? I mean, I ask myself that almost every day, if I'm being totally honest. I think what
Join the
keeps me
club.
going, yeah, is because we came off this super high, right? And like I started off saying, I was in business building mode for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. Every year that I looked at was growth, year over year over year. Then we had the pandemic. I mean, that was like unbelievable growth. And so I think for me, I got complacent because I was like, look, I've been growing, growing, growing. We've had these banner years. There's no way I'm going to do less than, X amount of units or whatever, X amount of volume. Then we hit 2022 halfway through the year. And from then until now, it's been really, I would say, the hardest grind that I've experienced. Tactics, anything that I did to grow my business before, it's like we're doubling down on, and we're getting certain conditions within the industry are tough, right? And they're out of our control. And we have to just keep showing up every day with a positive attitude and, keep doing it. So, how do I stay on track? For sure, my family. I mean, Applied Mortgage is a legacy business. So, for me, Applied Mortgage is my life. It is my family. It's everything. I get chills saying that. And the goal is to be the best mortgage team that we have here in Massachusetts. And we've gotten those accolades. And I know just to be able to believe that through and through and through, even when inventory's down, even when rates are high, even when people are getting beat out from bidding wars, it's like you just have to believe in whatever your why is. And my family. I mean, that's my Applied Mortgage family, and also my kids and my husband. I want my kids to see that their mom is successful, a good leader, leads with grace and kindness, and is able to be present both in work and at home, which that's the toughest part to balance.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what's next for you? I mean, as you look forward to the next, I don't know, 3-5 years, as far as skills or things that you're really working on, what do you think is going to be important for a loan officer to have a good understanding of, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, I think that partnering with the right team is huge. Spent a good chunk of the last year interviewing many different places to bring my Applied Mortgage team to, and I landed with HMA Mortgage. And I think that as loan officers are going through this challenging industry, a lot of people are really considering where do they hang their hats, and I think that's an important decision to be thinking about. Now, it is true, grass is always greener, right? It's not just magically going to get easier if you make a move, but I do think it's important. And what I'm psyched about with HMA is we've got this extensive marketing suite, and the team has just been so instrumental in really helping me fine tune everything that I've done. So I moved in April, and so in the last, whatever it is, 4 or 5 months, not only has my volume stayed strong and my team's doing great and cranking out, it's also just getting those monthly webinars I was talking about, fine tuning the marketing around it. I launched my podcast. I launched those local love days. So to be able to have all of these things that were on my to-do list actually in motion is huge. And the whole goal of that is just to really be able to continue to build, back up a little bit more to kind of the levels of production that we were at pre-pandemic, and then just continue to expand from there and bring in some other team members and keep rocking. Because this is like, what other job? I mean, this is the other thing that keeps me going. Back to your last question, what other job can you really wake up and you're just talking to people all day long and have the opportunity to have such a big impact on people's lives and financially make the kind of money that we're able to make, right? It's like literally the best of both worlds.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep track of everything that you're working on right now, the local love days, the webinars, anything I can like just cuz you remind me a lot of what I've been going through personally, which is just like there's a million ideas just coming
A
in.
lot of ideas.
Let's chase this. Let's see what this is.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be like some edits that have to take place along the way. Maybe we do it this, maybe we don't do this anymore, or maybe we do it a little
Yeah.
differently and try things out. But
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
excitement of growth, right? Is like
Yeah.
you try it out, you find, and I find that, I can't remember where the quote came from, but the most successful people, they make decisions quickly and they try it, or they give things time, right? Versus, giving it time to make the decision and then not giving it time and then quitting quickly. So it's like, once you say I'm doing it, then you got to give it 90 days, 180
You just get
days, see
those.
if it really is working, and then, make those decisions. But I'm excited to
Yeah.
see what comes of all of it, because I mean, clearly you've got a lot of things on your mind that you really want to do, and that's exciting. That's what it's all about. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
You got to
this is
just find the right
amazing.
people. and the right support. I mean, that's what you were just saying reminded me of, I was in Mortgage Marketing Animals for a little while, and Steve Kyle's, his podcast, he often says, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it doesn't matter how you do it, just get started, something like that. Anytime I'm stuck on an idea, I'm like, you know what? We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to refine it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's and to your point about the team around you, I don't know if you've read the book Who Not How, but there was a quote in there that has stuck with me, and it's, be around the people that represent your future and not your past. And I think when you can get in the
That's
right
awesome.
room, get around the right people, I mean, you got into the coaching programs, you started doing things a little differently, and that was representative of your future, and now you've seen the results of that and how things have evolved from there. And so I think it's important for loan officers that, they do keep an eye out for, what do I want, who do I want to be in the future, and who is that person now, and how do I get around them? And
Definitely.
sometimes that does mean a change, and sometimes it just means picking up the phone and calling and saying, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And having a conversations. Anyway, well, let's wrap things up. Is there anything in particular, just as a parting, thing to say, anything in particular that you want this audience to hear that you didn't get a chance to share as we've been talking?
I would just say I'm so collaborative. I love ideas. So if anybody, as you can tell, if anybody's listening and they want to just, brainstorm, bounce ideas back and forth, that is what excites me in this business. There's just so many opportunities to be successful here in so many different ways. And it's really cool to see what other people are doing.
That's awesome. Lindsay, thanks for joining the Lowdown. It was great having you on and hearing your story, and I just wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thanks, Connor.